My parents decided to throw my sister a lavish birthday weekend. I received a card that simply read, "Maybe next year." So, I quietly booked a one-way flight. My name is Alex. I'm 29 and have always been the reserved one in the family. Not in a timid, shrinking violet way, but as someone who learned early on that voicing my thoughts often led to an eye roll, a dismissive chuckle, or a "don't be so sensitive" from my father. It wasn't always like this. Perhaps it was, and I just didn't recognize it as a child, but I do now. This became especially clear on my birthday this year when everything that had been simmering beneath the surface for years finally erupted. Let me explain. My younger sister, Mia, turned 26 in April. Our parents treated her to what could only be described as an extravagant weekend getaway. They rented a stunning beach house 2 hours away. A contemporary glass villa complete with a wraparound deck, hot tub, fire pit, and private beach access. They invited 2 of her friends from out of state and hired a personal chef for the weekend. The photos flooded social media. My mom captioned the images, "So proud of our little girl. Celebrating Mia in style. She deserves the world." There were group shots of them sipping cocktails, swimming, playing games, and laughing around a bonfire. One photo featured Mia with the caption, "A queen deserves a palace." I did not appreciate the photographs. I didn't comment. I didn't say anything at all. However, that was the first time I felt it in my chest. Not jealousy, but a subtle creeping realization that they would not do this for me. Not because they couldn't, but because they didn't believe I was worth it. Still, I brushed it off. Mia has always been the favorite. She's outgoing, charismatic, and effortlessly social. Growing up, I was the straight-A student, the one who never caused trouble and stayed up late studying instead of sneaking out. That made me invisible, but I had hoped they would do something special for my birthday. My birthday was 2 weeks ago on April 10th. I cleared my schedule just in case. I didn't make any plans with friends. I didn't book anything for myself. I didn't want to disrupt any surprise plans, you know. Around 1 p.m., I received a text from my mother. "Stop by the house when you're free today." That was it. No exclamation point, no happy birthday, nothing. I sighed but went anyway. I told myself she was probably just keeping it low-key. Maybe they were planning something small yet meaningful. I arrived around 3 p.m. Mia was lounging on the couch scrolling through her phone. Dad was outside mowing the lawn. Mom was in the kitchen humming to herself. When she saw me, she smiled as if I had dropped by on an ordinary Tuesday. "Oh, hey, Alex," she said. "You made it." I stood in the doorway for a moment. "Yeah, you said to stop by." She nodded, wiped her hands on a dish towel, and reached into the refrigerator. "I picked up a cupcake for you," she explained, placing it on the counter. It was one of those basic grocery store cakes, chocolate base, white frosting, and no candle. She handed me a card in a plain white envelope that was already half opened. Inside was a folded piece of cardstock with the words, "Maybe next year," written in shiny letters. That was it. No personalized message, no joke, just that. Mia didn't even look up. I let out a small laugh, more out of shock than amusement. "That's it?" My mother raised her eyebrows. "Excuse me? This is it? A store-bought cupcake and a card that literally says, 'Maybe next year'?" She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Don't be so sensitive, Alex. You're an adult. We figured you didn't need all the fuss. But Mia got a whole weekend getaway. A chef, a villa, a crown that said birthday queen. Well, Mia's been going through a tough time," she snapped. "And she's more celebratory. You're so private. We didn't think you'd want a big deal." I just stood there, the card limp in my hand, and the cupcake began to sweat under the harsh kitchen lights. My face felt hot, but my voice remained steady. "It's not about a big deal. It's about the difference." She rolled her eyes. "Honestly, Alex, this is exactly why we didn't plan anything. You always make everything about you." That struck a chord deep within me. I had spent most of my life justifying this kind of treatment, convincing myself they meant well and that I was just imagining things. But at that moment, I realized it wasn't me. It never was. It had uneven walls and a small balcony that overlooked the bustling city. I settled onto the bed, which creaked under my weight. The flooring was old but well kept, and it felt familiar, as if no one here expected anything from me or had predetermined who I was before I even spoke. I didn't respond to my parents' texts. Not right away. Not even after the fourth call. The tone of their messages only shifted after I posted a picture of a pastel pastry on my social media with the caption, "Breakfast of Champions." At first, their messages were confusing. "You're in Portugal? Is this a work trip? You didn't tell anyone you were leaving." Then came the guilt. "We just wanted a low-key day. Mia didn't even ask for all that stuff. We thought she needed it. It was supposed to be a joke, the card. You're taking it too seriously." But the last message from my mother struck a chord. "You always act like we treat you so poorly, but you never say what you actually want. Maybe if you spoke up more, things would be different." That's when I realized she didn't understand. She never had. This wasn't about wanting balloons at a party. This wasn't about jealousy. This was about years of being overlooked, dismissed, and told I was too quiet or sensitive whenever I tried to express myself. It was about them going above and beyond for Mia while I faded into the background, acknowledged only when it was convenient or when I stopped playing along. On the second night, I found myself in a cozy tavern, sipping my drink while a woman sang with raw emotion. I stared at my phone, her hauntingly beautiful voice echoing behind me, and eventually decided to text my father back. I went somewhere I matter. I didn't hear back immediately. But the next day, I received a group message from Mia. "Dude, what is going on? Mom's freaking out. She thinks you're disappearing or something. She's calling every cousin asking where you are. And why are you being so dramatic? It was just a cupcake. Grow up." I didn't respond to that one either. Instead, I browsed Airbnb and extended my stay. 2 more weeks. I started making lists of what I wanted to see. Crazy, right? Maybe even visit Spain. I hadn't even informed my employer that I would be gone for this long, but after years of not using my vacation days, they owed me. And I owed it to myself. By the 5th day, the narrative back home had shifted. My aunt messaged me unexpectedly. "Heard you're in Europe. Good for you. You deserve some pampering. Let me know if you want the family to back off." Then I received another message from my older cousin, Greg, whom I hadn't seen in years. "Bro, I remember your 18th birthday. You got a card and a handshake. Mia got a car at 18. Just saying. You're not crazy." I stared at it for a while. I was not crazy. I was not overreacting. I had grown accustomed to being treated as an afterthought. So when I finally pushed back, everyone acted as if I had lost my mind. But here's the thing about space, it gives you perspective. As I wandered through cobblestone streets and watched sunsets over the Tagus River, I began to realize that perhaps I was never the problem. They didn't like it when I stopped playing my assigned role. By the 7th day, things at home had reached a new level of chaos. My mother had posted a cryptic message on Facebook. When your children vanish on you without a word, you start to wonder if the world is upside down. It garnered nearly 60 comments. A few relatives chimed in with, "Hope everything is okay," or "Message me." One even tagged me. I didn't respond. Instead, I shared a photo of myself at a cafe in Lisbon, wearing sunglasses and smiling. Caption: "Sometimes the best birthday gift is peace." Not 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom again. I ignored it. Then a message arrived. This time, it wasn't from my parents or Mia. It was from my father's work email. "Alex, please call me. This is getting out of hand." I leaned back, puzzled. Why would he text me from work? Almost immediately after, another message came from my boss. "Hey, your mom called the office looking for you. Said it was urgent. Everything is all right?" My hands went cold. They weren't just panicking, they were escalating. People who had no business being involved in this were now in the mix. And I realized it wasn't just about my birthday anymore. This was about control, about how they had always kept an eye on me, defined me, and boxed me in. The sky was a beautiful blue, streaked with wispy clouds, and the street below was coming to life. Locals were sweeping their doorsteps, children were making their way to school, and a man was selling books from his wooden cart. I watched them with a strange sense of envy. These strangers had no idea who I was, what my history entailed, or why I was escaping. Yet, they treated me with more kindness than my own family ever had. The realization hit me harder than I expected. That afternoon, I decided to do something I had never done before. I switched my phone off, completely off, not just silent or on Do Not Disturb. I turned it off and left it in my hotel room. Then I wandered for hours through winding alleys and open plazas, past historic churches and vibrant murals. I got lost in Barrio Alto and stumbled into a small gallery where an artist was painting images inspired by his dreams. He told me I had sad eyes and strong shoulders. I chuckled and replied that it was perhaps the most honest thing anyone had said to me all year. I didn't think about my mother, my father, the cupcake, or Mia's extravagant weekend getaway. Instead, I focused on myself, who I was before I had to shrink to fit into the mold they created for me. That night, I bought a journal. On the first page, I wrote, "You are not selfish for choosing yourself." On the second page, I penned, "They only call it overreacting when they don't like the reaction." On the third page, I documented all the times I had been sidelined. My 18th birthday was forgotten until dinner when they handed me a $20 gas card, while Mia was celebrated with a party and a cake shaped like a soccer ball. They arrived late and left early for Mia's game, despite my valedictorian speech. 2 Christmases ago, I had bought thoughtful gifts for everyone, but Mia completely forgot about mine. My mother's response was, "She's just busy. Don't guilt trip her." The list went on. It wasn't about the gifts, it was a pattern. The underlying message was clear: you are not the first priority. You aren't even close. The next day, I turned my phone back on. It exploded with notifications. A flood of texts, voicemails, missed calls, and unexpected screenshots awaited me. Someone had clearly seen my Instagram post and shared it in the family group chat. Now, uncles and aunts were chiming in. Some were sympathetic. "Alex, I had no idea. That post broke my heart. You always were so quiet. Maybe too quiet. I wish I'd said something." Others were less understanding. Running off and airing dirty laundry on social media isn't the adult thing to do. So dramatic. Everyone gets a cupcake birthday once in a while. Then came the message that pushed me over the edge. My mother had emailed a photo of my empty childhood bedroom. The furniture was rearranged. The bed was gone. My books were boxed up. My desk had been replaced with a treadmill. She captioned it, "Didn't think you were coming back. Figured we'd use the space." There was no "I love you," no "come home when you're ready," and no apology. Just that. They treated me as if I were a nuisance they were glad to be rid of. I sat there, staring at the television, teeth clenched, heart racing, and something inside me shifted. Not sadness, not anger, but something colder and clearer: resolve. I took a deep breath and responded with a single message: "You don't have to make space for me. I've already found mine." Then I did something they never expected me to do. I logged into my bank account. I had been discreetly saving for years. While Mia drifted from job to job, relying on my parents whenever rent was due, I had built something substantial: investments, a thriving side business, and a 6-figure safety net. Now, I was going to use it not just for plane tickets and pastries, but for something more significant. A few phone calls, some paperwork, and a leap of faith later, I had signed the lease for a small flat in the heart of Lisbon. Brick walls, open windows, and a writing nook facing the street. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Then I did one more thing. I wrote an email. A simple, polite message, nothing furious or dramatic. Subject: resignation notice. I mentioned that I was seeking new opportunities abroad and thanked them for everything. I didn't bring up my mother, her calls to the office, or how humiliating that was, but I believed my supervisor understood. She replied 15 minutes later. "We'll miss you, Alex, but good for you. Go live your life." And that was it. The caption read, "Family isn't about who runs off when things get tough. It's about who stays." I'm proud to be here helping Mom and Dad rebuild after Alex's betrayal. Beneath it was a photograph of my old room, now painted a sterile beige. The bookshelves were empty, and my college diploma, which had hung on the wall for years, was gone. In its place was a framed picture of me shaking hands with a local business owner. The caption under the image read, "New beginnings." The comments were even worse. Aunt Marissa chimed in, "So proud of you for stepping up. Alex always was different." Shani, my cousin's wife, added, "Couldn't just talk to the family? Vanishing like that? Immature." And then came the kicker from my own mother: "Sometimes the prodigal son doesn't return. But the son who stays builds the future." My hands went numb. I read that sentence 5, 6, and 7 times. They weren't just erasing me from the room, they were rewriting the narrative. Suddenly, I wasn't the calm, steady one who maintained the peace. I was the son who ran away, the one who left them behind, the one who didn't care. Mia wasn't the golden child anymore, she was the rescuer, the martyr, the one who stayed to help Mom and Dad during their self-created crisis. But what hit me hardest was the realization that they knew I wouldn't defend myself publicly. They were counting on it. They understood that I despised drama, confrontation, and spectacle. They expected me to watch quietly from across the ocean as they distorted the truth. That's when I made my decision. No more silence. No more disappearing to keep the peace. I opened my laptop and began typing. I didn't write a harsh or nasty post, that's not who I am. But I wrote the truth calmly and carefully, like someone laying down receipts after years of being questioned. I posted it with no photograph, just words. For those who have heard a story about me, here is mine. I didn't run away. I didn't abandon anyone. I just stopped trying to earn the love and respect that should have come naturally from the people who raised me. On my brother's birthday, our parents rented a lake house, hired a private chef, and treated him like royalty. On mine, I received a solitary store-bought cupcake and a card that said, "Maybe next year." When I expressed my pain, I was told I was being overly sensitive. I took a picture of the gift, quietly left, and booked a flight to Lisbon. That decision wasn't a temper tantrum, it was a boundary. For years, I played the role they required: quiet, helpful, low maintenance. I watched as my milestones were overlooked, my achievements were minimized, and my feelings were dismissed. And still, I remained loyal. I was given the benefit of the doubt. I showed up until I realized that showing up for people who don't show up for you is not honorable, it's self-abandonment. I've received dozens of texts since my departure. Some are kind, while others are harsh, telling me I should have just spoken up. I did, multiple times. It didn't matter until I stopped playing along. I don't want pity. I don't need applause. I just want the truth to exist somewhere free of guilt trips and half-truths. I didn't run, I chose serenity. And sometimes, choosing peace means walking away from those who refuse to see you clearly. I clicked post. Then I switched my phone off again for 2 days. When I turned it back on, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. Hundreds of comments, dozens of messages. My story had been shared, screenshotted, and reposted. Friends, distant relatives, and even strangers were joining in. This hit me hard. I had been the background sibling, too. Thank you for saying what so many of us can't. This is why emotional neglect is so hard to explain. It's invisible until it's undeniable. Only one message stood out. It came from Danielle, a cousin on my father's side. We hadn't spoken in years. "Alex, I always thought something was off with how they treated you. I just didn't know how to say it. I'm sorry. I see you, and I'm glad you got out. That marked the beginning of more voices emerging. Not everyone supported me, some doubled down. My mother inevitably sent another passive-aggressive message. Some people air their wounds instead of healing them. Mia texted me once, "Congrats on your little pity parade. You always love playing the victim." I didn't respond because I wasn't playing anymore. I was done performing, and life gradually began to fill with genuine experiences. I joined a writing club in Lisbon. I landed a part-time job editing English language pieces.